Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It's Season 2, Episode 53, Austin. The Steelers win 23-20 over the Cincinnati Bengals. A very odd game for sure, though. The big talking point after this game is more about the state of football rather than the actual game. The lead story, obviously, Ryan Shazier's back injury or neck injury as it appeared on the field. That's getting a lot of attention. So, Austin, let's just address it right now. How did you kind of look at this game from the moment that happened? I know you were at work, so it was probably difficult. I don't think you saw it at first.
No, I actually had to go back and see it. But I got home shortly after and saw the replays and saw people posting on Twitter and stuff. And no one wants to see that type of injury ever. And for most of the game following that injury, I really couldn't get it off my mind. I was much more worried about the chance that someone I admire, someone's fiance, someone's son, may not walk ever again, never mind play football. It was scary, and we still don't really know what's happening. We got the goodish news that it's a spinal contusion, that he's slowly gotten feeling back in his extremities, but we still don't know what is to come for him. He was just transferred over to Pittsburgh UPMC today, though, so him being moved is a good sign. If it was very, very serious, he would have both probably needed surgery as well as needed to stay in Cincinnati longer.
Yeah, and further than and beyond that, I think like you said, we don't know what's going on yet. But as you mentioned, it's I don't know, Austin. I keep thinking about kind of what happened and how it was really just kind of a freak accident. But I'm going to double back here. Just the whole complexion of the game changed, and everyone seemed to be able to take it back a bit and just realized at that point that Shazier's health was just of the utmost concern. It was really a sobering feeling watching it live. I kind of, it was the same thing you were saying. I just kind of didn't care. It's not that I didn't care about the game, but it just became so much less important than it was at that time. And then as far as Shazier and the good sign, yeah, I'm still concerned about him for sure. There haven't been details released. There should be some soon, right, Austin? I think they said the first 24 to 48 hours from yesterday would have been the key, so that means we should be hearing something somewhat soon.
Yeah, we'll get good or bad news on how severe his injury was coming soon. They said 24 to 48. It's already been the 24. So we should have it tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah, beyond that, it seems as though the worst case scenario, that we feared, it looks like that those concerns have hopefully gone by the wayside. So it looks like there's at least good news there. Won't speculate further than that though, but we'll keep an eye on that for everybody. Beyond that, Austin, I guess just let's talk a little bit about what everyone's been saying about the game, about how nasty it was. I don't know if it's necessarily as bad as a picture as people are painting, but it was very unfortunate in some of the hits that were doled out by players on both sides, kind of what they led to, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. But can you just comment on that? Like, is that what you felt? Because I felt like it was a very physical game, and I can see why people wanted to think it was a dirty game. I didn't think it was really that bad comparing to some other games the Steelers have played against the Bengals, especially in the past couple of years.
I felt like it was more ugly than nasty. It was just the amount of injuries in this game. Mixon went down, Adam Jones went down, Vontaze Burfict went down, Tyler Matakevich went down, Ryan Shazier obviously went down, as we said. There was just a lot of injuries. I wouldn't say it was super nasty. There wasn't a lot of hits where I was like, oh, geez, that was a rough hit that doesn't belong in the NFL. It only happened like maybe twice. It wasn't very nasty, so to say, just moreover ugly and unfortunate. And it was a lot based on luck.
beyond that, Austin, what were some of your quick takeaways from this? So Steelers comeback win, looking pretty listless in the first half, obviously, given everything that had happened. They couldn't stop A.J. Green. They weren't moving the ball. Big drive at the end of the first half. But what did you think about that comeback?
Well, firstly, the Steelers surprised me by choosing to bench Cody Sensabaugh for rookie Cameron Sutton, who was only able to start practice a few weeks back. It feels like the Steelers don't tend to adjust a game plan when it's not working. I feel like they just let it happen and try and fight with what's working on either the other side of the ball or whatever. So I was a little bit surprised that they actually adjusted mid-game to something that was really, really hurting them. Then, even though against the lowly Bengals, this is a great comeback win with everything stacked against them going into that second quarter. So what were your quick takeaways?
Well, just playing off of what you said with the kind of precedent of sitting someone down in the middle of the game, I think the last time a player was benched on the defense mid-game like that was like 2012. Do you remember any time since then? Because I certainly can't think of any time.
No, I can't remember a mid-game benching just that awful.
Yeah, that really speaks to how poorly Sensabaugh was playing, which is unfortunate because it looked like he was doing okay when the Steelers were playing the Titans a few weeks ago, getting that huge pick. But the fact of the matter is he was getting toasted. And beyond that, honestly, the first half kind of the Steelers got whooped, and I think we may have seen A.J. Green and Andy Dalton at their best in the first half. And then this was probably the toughest win of the season, I think, without a doubt. And this may have been one of the more difficult wins in the Mike Tomlin era. There's no doubt that his ability and the team captain's ability to lead in this game was very important to getting the team back on track. Just a kind of a crazy game. And, it's interesting to mention, Austin, the Bengals held leads of 20-0 at halftime last year in Paul Brown Stadium. And this year they were up 17-0 with like 30 seconds left in the first half. And they blew both those leads. And that's not something that I feel like is being talked much about right now just because of everything else that's going on. But it was a tough loss for them.
Marvin Lewis is an awful coach. That's about it for me.
Is this finally going to be it for him?
No, they're never going to learn. Marvin Lewis is going to be a head coach for like the next until he passes on. In reality, to be serious for a second, I want to say that they're still going to give him another year. I think one more year and it should do it. I felt like we've been talking about. The NFL has been talking about Marvin Lewis supposedly being fired after the season or should be fired after the season for like so long now. I feel like after this one, they'll finally be ready to do so.
I think they even mentioned it in the years they were making the playoffs. I think the time that they really should have done it was after that playoff loss to the Steelers. I thought that was it for him. It just seems like borrowed time for me. I'd be shocked that if he stays kind of beyond next year. I think he'll get probably one more shot, but I mean, I'd be, it's just insanity, but whatever. Elsewhere, Austin, there's really only one other injury that I remember. You can sort of double check for me if you like, but inside linebacker Tyler Matakevich left the game, who was Ryan Shazier's replacement. And he didn't return, so L.J. Fort played in his place, so that means the Steelers only had two inside linebackers with experience there. The next backup would have been Arthur Moats, who's an outside linebacker. So the Steelers went out and re-signed former inside linebacker Sean Spence, who was a third-round pick in 2012 and nearly had a career-ending injury himself in a preseason game that year. He returned in 2014, started 9 games, and had a sack in his first playoff appearance. So he's played in the Steelers' defense a lot in the past, and should be familiar with the system. Do you like this move?
They needed someone, and Spence has been with the Steelers, and at this point in the season, there was no doing better than getting a guy with experience on the team. I was sort of surprised they didn't bring back rookie Galambos, though. He was on the team for preseason. I believe he was a rookie.
Yes, he was. He was.
Okay, he was. That's what I thought. And I mean, he's a rookie, so that's it. he was an undrafted one as well, but I felt like given the time he spent with the team in the preseason, he was on the practice squad for a little bit. I thought that he would have been the first choice. I was not expecting Spence. What did you think of this signing of Spence?
I think that there was really one guy that you probably would have wanted, and it was Steven Johnson, but he was signed by the Ravens after being cut by the Steelers this year. I like this move. He's not ready to start today, obviously, but he's familiar with some of the personnel and the scheme that's run. I don't think he's going to play a ton early on, but I have a feeling if he stays on the team beyond this week, depending on how long Shazier or Medikevich might be out, I think he can be a contributor, not a major contributor, but someone that can provide depth at the position. I feel better having someone like him around. Beyond that, let's talk about the two suspensions that were handed down at first. The long and short of it is Juju Smith-Schuster and George Iloka, who were both flagged for hits in the game. Both received one-game suspensions from the NFL. They both appealed. Juju's got denied, and George Iloka's was kind of overturned, so he only had to pay a fine. So let's talk about all this. Let's analyze each hit, I suppose, and let's also bring into account the fact that Rob Gronkowski, for his idiotic actions at the end of the Patriots-Bills game with an interception thrown by Tom Brady, and he... You know what, Austin, do you want to take that one? Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Gronkowski at the end of the game went back after Tre'Davious White. After Tre'Davious White got an interception, he was already tackled. He was already touched on the ground. He was just starting to get up, and as he starts to get up, Gronkowski flies from behind and basically elbows his head into the ground, which basically, I think that gave him a concussion. I think that actually concussed him, if I remember correctly. But regardless, it was unnecessary. It was way after the play. The play was over. It was whistle dead. And Gronkowski just lost his cool for whatever reason. So it was bad.
Wow. I just searched Tre'Davious White, and the first story is Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White reportedly says the, quote, whole hood is after Rob Gronkowski. Well then, that's, there's that. But beyond that, Austin. First of all, I have a huge problem with the fact that they were both suspended one game for their hits. I don't think they warranted suspensions. I don't believe either player had the history for a suspension. Those are both finable plays, and I agree. I agree with fines for them, but I thought suspensions were too much, especially considering the fact that Gronkowski only got one game. That means you're telling me that what they both did is it deserves the same punishment as attacking somebody after the play. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's insanity to believe that to be true. And then beyond that, I'm just really questioning the thought process here when they overturned George Iloka's suspension, but they did not grant the same for Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm just I don't understand that. Was it because of the media's reaction? What's really the difference there? I mean, they both, to me, are plays that deserve fines, flags, as they were flagged. You know, I understand the main difference here is taunting with Juju Smith-Schuster, but that cannot be a factor in suspension. And it's just that's what it says in the rule book, isn't it?
It is. It is what it says in the rule book, but they lied. They lied straight out because there is no reason why the appeal shouldn't have been overturned for Juju Smith-Schuster while it could have been overturned for Iloka. That makes no sense. Iloka shouldn't have won his appeal. If Juju Smith-Schuster didn't win his, Iloka shouldn't have won his because Iloka hit Antonio Brown in the head, and him winning and Juju not just shows that they don't care about safety at all. It's all about the taunting. It was about after the play. It was about proving their own point. It's just ridiculous, and that's not allowed. That's not supposed to be considered. How are you going to go and say that, oh, we upheld Juju's because of player safety? It was solely because of the block. When Juju lowered his shoulder into him and didn't try hitting him in the helmet. It was in the middle of the play, And then neither did Iloka, but Iloka did end up hitting him in the head, straight in the head. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sorry, but if you want to take importance into account, Antonio Brown is way more important to the team than Vontaze Burfict is to the Bengals. It's just, is it because Antonio Brown didn't get hurt on it that we don't care? Is that really why? Because then you don't care about safety. You only care about safety when the NFL is getting blasted because people are getting hurt. That is exactly what they're saying to me. And then just taking the Rob Gronkowski thing just makes it even more worse. It's just, how are you going to say that Rob Gronkowski, after the play, going after Tre'Davious White is the same as Juju Smith-Schuster going in to try and make a block and accidentally hitting Vontaze Burfict helmet to helmet? Because you could see he was lowering his shoulder. He did hit him in the helmet with his helmet. Yes, so it deserved a fine. It was an illegal block. But how are you going to tell me that during the play, trying to help, because it would have gotten Le'Veon Bell more yards if he made the play, if he made the block properly. Le'Veon Bell, Vontaze Burfict was coming in. It wasn't like this was away from the play. It just doesn't make sense. I feel like I'd feel better if Gronk got 2 or 3 games for this hit. It just doesn't seem fair. And then adding along with it, I don't know if you saw this one, Julio Jones actually literally did the same exact thing this week. A same exact thing. His block was ruled legal, though, for whatever reason, and he's not getting any fines or suspensions for it. We would have known about the suspension. If a fine's coming, it's coming really late. But so where's the consistency here? Where is anything? There's no rule. It's when the NFL feels like it. I can tell
you where the consistency is.
Where?
It's in what's making the NFL look better. You know, think about it. It's like that game was in prime time. Everyone was watching. You know, ugly things happen. Oh, you know, everyone's going to blame the kid who's taunting the veteran player, right? So in their logic, suspend him because that's what the fans want. They're all about public image. That's how I see it anyways.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just what it's displaying anyways. I mean, what else could it be? I mean, maybe we're...
No other explanation.
What?
There's no other explanation.
Yeah. Like, there's just, like, I guess, is there a way we're not looking at this correctly? Like, are we looking at this through the wrong eyes, maybe? I mean, I won't discount that, but, like, can someone explain it to me, please? I want to understand why, like, this is deemed okay at all. So, I guess maybe I'm just a little confused myself, but I'm sure we won't get any answers anyways. So, in any case, Austin, did you get your fair share? Did you get that out? I feel a little better.
Yeah, I feel a little bit better. It's disappointing we're not going to really see Juju when we go to the game, though.
Yeah, Gina, my girlfriend, that's her favorite player on the Steelers, and she's very disappointed that the one game she's going to, he's not going to play. So she's a little devastated. Beyond that, Austin, Roger Goodell, the news was made official today, got a 5-year, $200 million extension. Look, I'm just going to say it. I'm not surprised at all. His popularity is at an all-time low, and it continues to drop. But until the owners stop making money, which some of them are, but until enough of them do, there's no reason Goodell is going to lose his job. The owners that are making money love him, for the most part, besides Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones and maybe Art Rooney. All I know is that the Steelers haven't had the best of times with him in the past. But the fact of the matter is the owners like him for the most part. So he's going to get those extensions regardless, whether or not the fans or the players like him at all. And that's unfortunate, but it's the way it is.
We're going to face a lockout when the CBA contract runs out. There's going to be a huge lockout, and it's going to be awful. It's just going to be really, really bad because of all the issues happening in the NFL right now. I don't know if you saw it earlier today, though, but Mike Mitchell went off. Mike Mitchell went off about how he's teaming up with Jerry Jones to try. It obviously didn't work to get Roger Goodell fired and all that about how the inconsistencies. And there's obviously all the other things that happened in the league this year with the all the kneeing at the beginning of the year and owners and stuff trying to get it all figured out and all the controversies.
And above that, the other things to think about with the new CBA is the marijuana, the handling of drug suspensions versus like domestic violence suspensions, and guaranteed money in contracts.
There's going to be a lockout. I got to look up when it's actually coming.
I think it's 2020. I think.
Oh, it's 2020. 3 years. I can almost guarantee that we're going to have a lockout unless the NFL just kind of gives in to what players want, and the players are going to want so much.
That's not going to happen. They're going to have to like take one thing and compromise on others. There's no way the NFL gives here. The only way this would be over quickly is if there's a new NFLPA head and he's just a complete carpet to be walked on, which I don't suspect either.
Yeah, I agree.
So beyond that, the other big news in the NFL, the Giants cleaned house in the front office by firing head coach Ben McAdoo and longtime GM Jerry Reese. The benching of Eli Manning, definitely a questionable decision to say the least. Players spoke out about it. Fans were, I think, ready to kill this guy. Analysts were down on them. It's just the Giants were a complete mess this year. This is a team that won 10 games and made the playoffs last year. And here they are now, 2-10, and Eli's streak is over. That team's in disarray. The fact that this happened like a week later than it should have indicates to me that there's some discord going on in the front office as well. This team has been a mess now this season, and I think they're going to be for a while. But at the very least, cleaning house there is a good way to start fresh.
It's all because they got in a boat in Miami.
Yeah, jeez.
I love that narrative, but that's sarcasm, by the way, for anyone listening. I'm not being serious. It was long overdue. I think that McAdoo should have been fired a while ago, and I think as soon as he said that he was benching Eli Manning, that John Mara should have stepped in and been like, listen, you're not doing that. There's no reason to do that. I at least thought he should have stepped in and said, if you're going to do that, start Webb instead of Smith, but they started Geno Smith. I think that should have been the biggest thing right there. And frankly, I was kind of upset even seeing Eli Manning's streak end. Like, he was at 210 consecutive games played. It's just, and it was for what? For no reason. It's just to see Geno Smith play, to confirm that Geno Smith cannot be a starting NFL quarterback. I think a blind person probably could have told you that. Like, I don't know what the idea was. I don't know. Oh, I'm just glad that that's not our team. I really am. I don't think the Giants fans have had a happier day than when McAdoo got fired. So
yeah, imagine if the Steelers really did have a bad coach like that, huh?
That'd be awful. Steelers fans now just are already kind of slowish.
They just don't get how lucky they have it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as it is. But, that's another conversation for another time. Austin, this, as much as we've talked about everything, there was a game played on Monday night. The Steelers had a huge rally from 17 down to win, had another game-winning drive by Ben Roethlisberger, another game-winning field goal by Chris Boswell. Pretty good win, even though it was a team the Steelers really should have beaten. The circumstances, it was a very difficult game to play, and the Steelers came out on top, and they're 4-0 in the division.
They're doing all right, actually. Even though it was an ugly win, it's a win nonetheless, but it didn't start pretty for the offense. They brought it together in the end, though, so that's all that matters. A lot of the struggles that occurred early on, I blame on the offensive line. Even though stats don't say they had a bad day, which is 1 sack, 4 tackles for a loss, and 4 quarterback hits given up, there was just constant pressure on Roethlisberger, and it's part of the reason Ben threw that interception. Don't get me wrong, it was still mostly Ben's fault, but the offensive lineman had him under pressure, which led him to make a bad decision because he had no time. Speaking of Ben, despite that pick, he had a solid game. He threw for just under 300 yards at 290, and also threw for 2 touchdowns with a 60% completion rate, which is pretty solid. Not that it's exactly a bad thing, but he definitely looked at Brown a lot this game. He targeted 15 times, which is a crazy amount, even for Antonio Brown. Moving on to Brown, it was basically him and Bell that accounted for the entire offense per usual. Actually, probably even more in this game than any, but this was surprising since he was a game-time decision. So I expected him to be more limited in some form, but he looked good out there, the same as always. I didn't see a noticeable difference. Did you?
No. Honestly, it looked like he was just doing everything he had been doing. I still can't get over the fact that he held on to that catch in the end zone, let alone wasn't knocked out by it.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was almost as if he was never injured. It was just like it was a normal game, and he made that amazing catch.
Yeah, that I would be honest, on that hit that he took in the end zone, I kind of figured, oh my god, like how long is he going to be down for? And then he just starts celebrating. You're like, oh, that big sigh of relief.
That's like when Roethlisberger went down on that big hit from Carlos Dunlap. I got scared for a second, then he just kind of rolled over. It looked like he was in pain, and then he was like, nah, I'm fine.
All the drama.
Anyway. Oh, sorry? What?
I just said all the drama.
I gotcha. But Brown only came down with 7 of his 15 targets, but some were Ben's fault, but there was at least one where he should have made what would have been an easy catch for him. It would have been gone for a first down, and it was late in the second half, and he just dropped it. He wasn't really in coverage, so it was not good for him, but, I mean, everyone has those days. Moving along to Bell. Bell has been outstanding in the passing game these past 2 weeks, getting 5 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown here, leading the team in receiving yards and yards per catch this game, which is pretty impressive for a running back, I won't lie. The only other running back I can think of that could have a stat line like this season while also having a decent day rushing is Alvin Kamara. There's no other receiving back that's as good as Bell that while also being just as good as a rusher besides Kamara. Other than that, Bell's really in a league of his own. Moving on to the rest of the Steelers' offense, Martavis Bryant had a pedestrian day, making 4 catches for 40 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster, or JoJo Smith-Schuster, as John Gruden would say, had a really small day than what we've been accustomed to, getting 4 catches for 17 yards, and was actually targeted less than Martavis Bryant this game, which I think is the first time since week 4 that's happened, or week 3. Jesse James made 1 big catch that went for 13 yards, and that was it for him. Xavier Grimble made a catch for 9, and Rodgers is the last person to make a catch, only catching 1 for 4 yards. So pretty small performances from everyone else, but there's just one more thing I wanted to mention, and that was James Conner. James Conner came in and had a huge 10-yard run, which was pretty impressive, and I just wanted to point that out. And that wraps it up for me, recapping the offense. What do you have to add about the offense in this game?
Well, I was thinking I was kind of interested what you were saying about Bell with his ability or his play out of the backfield as of late has been impressive. You know, he's up to 66 catches on the year for 502 yards, and the last 2 games, his average yards per catch has gone up by about 1.5 yards, almost 2 full yards. So that's pretty impressive, something to think about there.
Oh, that is really impressive. Good for him.
Yeah, he's now only a full yard short of his career average at 7.6. But regarding the rest of the offense, it was pretty much exclusively the original Killer Bees and Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown. We'll get to Chris Boswell later. They couldn't get much going in the first half, but again, they showed that they're probably the best offense in the league when there's less than 2 minutes left in a half. They drove 71 yards in just 3 plays after falling behind 17-0, and I think at that time everyone was thinking just take a knee, just go into the second half, don't throw it and get another, turnover or something. But, well-executed screen pass to Bell picked up 33 yards in the second play of that drive. kind of inexplicable if you're the Bengals there, Austin, but on the very next play, Antonio Brown got behind Dre Kirkpatrick and drew a defensive pass interference penalty that set up the first field goal of the game. If he doesn't do that, Brown is gone. That drive got the Steelers back in right back into gear. They scored on 3 of their only 4 second-half drives, but they made the most of them. They lucked out a bit on Bell's TD, which let's talk about that for a second. Like, what even happened? Like, I saw the very end of that play, and I was very confused. That's got to be something that's driving you crazy if you're a Cincinnati fan.
William Jackson III just stood there. He was afraid of making that tackle, afraid of the getting a penalty, I guess, because he thought Bell stepped out. So he didn't want that penalty for the extra at the end of it. Thing was, the rookie linebacker was not ready to face Bell and couldn't make a good tackle on him. And I guess William Jackson didn't see that, so Bell just tiptoed the sideline like the amazing back he was and just walked basically straight past William Jackson. He just kind of looked at him and watched.
But yeah, Bell was fantastic on this night. This may have been the hardest we've ever seen him run. He was just purely physical, and I think his conversion on a 4th and 1 where he ran over Kirkpatrick past the line of scrimmage was probably the biggest play of the game in my opinion. And there was just no doubt he was going to get that first down. And it just felt like he wasn't going to be denied in this game, even though he didn't have a ton of room in the running game, and he had to get most of his work done through the air again. But he played very well. And as far as the line goes, I told Austin I thought this was the worst half the offense played the first half this season. Roethlisberger was under duress, and the running game wasn't effective at all. They did a better job in the second half, but they definitely did not have their best day. Brown is just incredible, Austin. The things he does every week. How does he hang on to that ball in the end zone? How does he put up 8 for 101 on the injured toe? And it's incredible that he's been able to do that. The sky's the limit when Roethlisberger is playing the way he has for the past few weeks. Beyond that, look, Martavis Bryant, only 4 catches for 40 yards. As we said last week, you'll take 4 for 40 as long as he's not hurting you. Yeah, he really needs to start coming down with those deep balls, Austin, though. That's the one thing I really have to say that he really needs to improve before he gets back to the Bryant we used to see.
No doubt. It's just really, really sad seeing as back in 2015 he was an amazing deep threat. That was what he was good at. Now it's just like if anyone's within a yard of him, he can't make the catch, it seems like. I mean, he did make one in this game where he made a sort of catch, not in traffic, but more of a contested catch. So, I mean, I guess I can't say it after this game, but generally, he's not been very good when anyone is close to him in coverage.
Yeah. Coming down with that deep ball is huge, but he did draw a pass interference penalty. And as I said, this Martavis Bryant is not nearly as good as the 2014 or 2015 versions of himself, but you can take this when you're getting other production. On the other side, Austin, how do you play after, your defensive leader, your most, player who made the Pro Bowl last year, your signal caller on defense? How do you handle losing him for the game and then having to worry about him while you're playing that game, and you have to face AJ Green and Andy Dalton at their best? It's incredible. How did they even play? How did they find it within themselves to come back and play so much better in the second half?
The defense started off really poorly and really broke down after losing Shazier. It was emotional for them, and they also it's just not. It's so hard to explain. They lost one of their better players who makes a call on defense, and that's their brother and their friend, their teammate. It really hurt them. It didn't help that Cody Sensabaugh was getting absolutely torched in this game. So bad that, like I said, Steelers elected to put rookie Cam Sutton in and take him out, but it came together in the second half. Something the Steelers struggled with all night, however, was stopping the run. All Cincinnati runners averaged over 4.8 yards a carry, and Giovanni Bernard averaged 5.9 on 13 runs, and that's ridiculous. he would easily run for 8 to 9 yard gains constantly. It was just so aggravating to watch. It would constantly be set up for 2nd and 1 or 2nd and 2. And having a short gain on 2nd down constantly is just awful. Then the pass rush was missing for the entire first half. And really most of the night. But, I mean, they did show up in the second half. But with no sacks in the first against the middle of the pack offensive line. It was just a bad day. And 2 more bad things before going to the good. Firstly, Bud Dupree should have had 2 sacks this game, but on that, in quotations, first one, I had never seen something so absurdly stupid happen in my life. Dupree thought Dalton slinged it while he was in the middle of wrapping him up and stopped tackling him, stood up, just turned.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Sorry, Austin, we lost you there for a second.
I'm back.
Yeah, did you know what was going on?
No, I didn't know what was going on until you said hello.
Okay. Crap, I forgot the last thing you said, but basically your entire rant. Not your entire rant, but we only caught the beginning of your rant there.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, Bud Dupree should have had 2 sacks this game, but on that quote in quotations first one, I had never seen something so absurdly stupid happen in my life. Dupree thought Dalton slinged it while he was in the middle of wrapping up and stopped tackling him, stood up, and looked to see where the ball was thrown. Except the thing was, the ball wasn't thrown, and Andy Dalton escaped and just ran away. And I was watching the whole time and immediately what are you doing? What happened? I was just so confused. And I was just so angry about it. It just didn't make sense. The ball fell incomplete, but if that play gained any yards, I would have been raging so hard, even if it was just a yard, because that should have been a loss of yards, and Bud Dupree just really, really messed that one up. Secondly, Steelers are beyond lucky that the Bengals got called for a holding on what would have been yet another long touchdown given up on the season, because Cameron Sutton got beat straight up. He got burned. And neither him or Artie Burns were capable of making a tackle. It was super ugly, but it came back, so I guess I really shouldn't hold it against them since it's not going to count on the stat sheet. But in the second half, the defense did way better, mostly in part because A.J. Green stopped catching balls, having 0 catches in the second half. And while I would like to attribute that to the Steelers' defense, I don't know what got into A.J. Green, but A.J. Green was dropping easy balls. There was balls thrown at him, and he was just – it wasn't really a good play by coverage. It was just him dropping it. But the Steelers playing better did contribute. Cameron Sutton coming in for Sensible, and Artie Burns having a good day as well in coverage, only allowing 2 receptions for 25 yards on the day really helped, and that's not a shabby statistic at all, especially when we've been really roasting Burns for his play. Also coming out of the half, the pass rush showed up with a big sack from Vince Williams and a sack from Bud Dupree, which, like I said, should have been 2. Speaking of Vince Williams, he had a great day, especially given how emotional he was. He led the team with tackles, and as I just mentioned, got the big sack. So, good day for him. As for the rest of the defense, I think everyone else really had ordinary days. I don't think there's anything else worth mentioning from me. But what do you have to add?
Well, much like the first meeting with the Bengals, the Steelers' defense improved in the second half. This game was obviously quite different and far more serious due to the Shazier injury, but the defense was just getting pushed around and beaten up. The defensive backs, namely Cody Sensabaugh, were having a really tough time containing A.J. Green. He had 16 targets in that game, by the way.
That's insane. I didn't realize that when I was looking back at the statistics.
Yeah, I feel like he got 9 in the first half, so that's not bad, 6 for 9, but then the second half just nothing. But beyond that, I think Green and Dalton in the first half, that connection might have been the best we've ever seen. Joe Mixon and later Giovanni Bernard looked great. They had a ton of running room, and I was very disappointed with the Steelers' defensive line in this game. I don't think they played very well at all. That powered the Bengals to a triumphant halftime lead where they were up 17-3. The benching of Cody Sensabaugh was probably the main talking point, for this defense. it really speaks to how badly Sensabaugh was playing that not only was he sat down mid-game, but he was sat down for a player who's played in 0 preseason games. Only, I believe, I don't even think he had a snap technically the last time, did he?
I don't think so.
So, basically, you're getting replaced by a guy who's never played a snap before. And considering he's a rookie and was not in training camp really at all besides, I think the first week, that's pretty embarrassing. But it worked. Whether or not it was a scheme or just unlucky or A.J. Green drops, it's still a good stat line to have, and that's an encouraging sign going forward. The other change came when Tyler Medikevich left with I believe it was a shoulder injury?
Yeah, it was his shoulder.
I think L.J. Ford is just a better fit there when he's playing with Vince Williams. I don't know if you know much about those guys, but basically Ryan Shazier and L.J. Ford are similar type players. They're smaller, faster linebackers, while Vince Williams and Medikevich are more slower and more physical players. So to me, it kind of didn't make sense for Medikevich to go in for Shazier, that would then put 2 slower, more run-stopping players on the field, where Fort is more of a coverage kind of guy. I think he complemented Williams much better, so I think that that was a reason that played into the Steelers playing better on defense in the second half. They didn't get a ton of pressure, Austin, but they did get sacks on the last 2 drives, so they were important. They didn't do a good job stopping the run in this game, but I guess you'll take it when it comes down to the fact that 3 points against in the second half. They played well enough to get the win, but there are still things you want to see improved, especially that long pass. I was screaming at my television for that. It's unbelievable. How does that happen again?
Who knows? I don't understand how these things happen. Good thing it got called back.
Yeah. As far as special teams go, Austin, it's I think it starts and ends with the Boz. Another great performance for the young kicker, huh?
Oh, yeah, it was a great performance. Great enough that he won AFC Special Teams Player of the Week, so congratulations to him. But elsewhere on special teams, I want to address some bad things that happened. J.J. Wilcox got 2 holding penalties on special teams, including one that brought back what would have been a Martavis Bryant touchdown, which I can't remember the last time I saw a punt return touchdown. Actually, I can. It was against the Colts. I'm sorry.
Kick return.
Kick return. Nope, that was a punt return. You're correct. The one I was thinking of was a punt return. You're right. I can't remember the last time the Steelers had a kick return touchdown.
You want to check that out? See if you can figure that out in a minute? Or do you want me to look it up?
I'll do it when you start talking, and I'll get back to you afterwards.
Okay.
Also, Brian Allen got an unnecessary roughness penalty, and that's way too many penalties on special teams for my liking. And there's probably another that I'm forgetting or more, so not good. But anyway, as I said, Boswell did great. He was 3 for 3 on his field goal attempts, including the game winner, and 2 for 2 on extra points. And then Barry also did decently, pitting the Bengals inside the 23 of the 4 times he punted. His average wasn't that great, but I guess he pinned them inside the 20, so decent. And the coverage team was great as well, keeping Erickson only 2 returns for 9 yards. Also, the coverage team on kickoffs did great, too, only allowing Erickson 2 returns for 29 yards, so good for them, too.
We need to talk about that kickoff. After the Brown touchdown, the flag was enforced on the kickoff, so Boswell pooched it from midfield, and that gave, I think it was Erickson, the kick returner, no room at all, and the Bengals started on their own, 8-yard line. I just wanted to talk about how great of a special teams play that was, and that's something that Danny Smith needs to be credited for, because it's really easy right there to just boot it out of the end zone, because you can. But that was really smart. The Steelers saved an extra, 15, 20 yards on that play.
Yeah, you're right. I honestly completely forgot about that play, so...
Are you set with special teams right now, or did you want to...
Yeah. What do you want? Anything you want to add?
You covered it pretty much. The only thing I have to say is that, I have a couple things, but, excuse me. The Steelers have found their kick returner, and it's Martavis Bryant. He might be having a down year as a wide receiver, but his ability as a kick returner the last 2 weeks, I think it's the best that we've seen in a few years, to be honest. And then what more can you say about the Boz? He hasn't missed a kick against the Bengals yet. And simply put, he's one of the best in the league. Also interesting to note that Eli Rogers was back there on punt returns. I have a feeling it's because of Brown's toe injury, but do you think that might have been why, or do you think this could be a permanent switch?
I think it was because of Antonio Brown's toe injury. I don't think they just didn't want to put him out there for longer than they had to, so they put Rodgers back onto it. Might as well use him if he's out there.
Very true. All right. So time for our awards section, Austin. I'll start with the big stop of the week. It came on the final drive of the game for the Bengals. The Steelers had just tied the game at 20, and the Steelers' defense was facing a 3rd and 2 from the Bengals' 20. Andy Dalton sacked on a 3-man rush by Bud Dupree. Wasn't really a rush; it was more of a coverage sack. But no matter the case, Dupree hadn't finished one of those in a while, including one earlier in the game that Austin already touched on. That was really frustrating, but he came up big when it mattered the most, and he had a sack that gave the Steelers the ball with a chance to win on offense, and that's exactly what they did. So Bud Dupree earns this week's Big Stop of the Week award. Austin, you go ahead with the Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week.
Sure. For his 9 tackles and his crushing sack on Andy Dalton in the second half of the game, all while being a mess after not knowing how Shazier was doing. You can't have shake and bake without half of it, so Vince Williams held it down the best he could and wins Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week with an honorable mention to Bell. But I thought because of what Vince Williams was going through emotionally, because Shazier and him are like the closest friends. They're one of the closest sets. They obviously go by shake and bake. They're basically coupled together. I threw Vince Williams ahead of Bell, even though Bell probably should have won it. So
I think that's fair.
Yeah, congratulations to Williams.
Alrighty. So we have a few plays to choose from, Austin, so let's go over them. The play of the game, is it the touchdown catch by Brown? Is it Bell's 4th down conversion? Is it the sack by Dupree, the sack by Vince Williams, the kick return? I was thinking the kick return. Did you find information about it?
I tried going back. There wasn't any detailed list with dates of when kick returns came. Only thing that came up was career kick return leaders and such. So I couldn't find it.
Well, I know Allen Rossum had a kick return touchdown in 2007. I don't know if there's been one since, but in any case, I don't know. Are there any other plays you can think of?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, what's it going to be? Brown's TD catch, Bell's 4th down conversion. I got to be honest, I loved that 4th down conversion by Bell. I think that was ridiculous.
I think we could go with that. I think that's a good one to go with.
Alrighty then, I'm pretty sure it was the drive the Steelers were driving for a touchdown. No, I don't believe so. Maybe it was a field goal. Yeah, the Steelers were down 2 scores at that time. 4th and 1 at Pitt 36 with 12-17 in the 4th quarter. Bell gains 9 yards by running over running over Kirkpatrick on that play. Geez, what a play. I felt like that was the game, and he not only got it, but he emphatically got it. And again, like I said before, he just was not going to be stopped on that play.
Nope. We forgot to mention that too. Le'Veon Bell and Kirkpatrick. I think Le'Veon Bell's out there to ruin Kirkpatrick's career. I don't know what Kirkpatrick did to Le'Veon Bell, but he just ran over him constantly. And obviously, as we know from last time, Bell gave him a nasty stiff arm. Kirkpatrick must be so happy that unless they somehow make a playoff push, that they won't have to verse the Steelers or Bell again for this year, because it was rough out there for Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, absolutely. So for that reason, Bell and his 4th down run of 9 yards on a 4th and 1 earns the play of the week for the Stronger Than Steel Awards section. So now, Austin, who impressed you this week and why?
Who impressed me? Well, easily Martavis Bryant. 4 catches for 40 yards. How is that impressive? Some might ask. It's not. What I am impressed with is what he flashed as a kick returner. Had it not been for J.J. Wilcox's hold, he would have had a touchdown, and he did decently on his other returns, returning twice for 38 yards. It's cool to see an upgrade at a position this far into the season. It's not anywhere I expected either, so good for him. As for defense, Cameron Sutton, despite the touchdown that got called back, since it didn't count, I can't really be angry about something that didn't happen. Technically, at the end of the day, he helped keep A.J. Green to 0 catches in the second half, and that's impressive. So who impressed you?
I was impressed by Ben Roethlisberger. And yeah, he had a tough start. He wasn't perfect. He threw a pick, which led to the first points of the game. But typically a poor start on the road means Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a bad game. But the fact that he turned it around in the face of the most difficult adversity that they had to suffer as a team, especially when the rest of the receiving options outside of Brown and Bell and a little bit of Bryant were not that impactful, I think he played pretty well given the circumstances, and he really impressed me on Monday night. The other was Vince Williams. We just talked about him. He's got a big heart, and he sure played like it. His best friend on the team was visibly, in distress, and it was clearly upsetting Vince Williams, but he played fantastic in that game. Had another huge sack, his 7th of the season. Kind of crazy, Austin, that an inside linebacker, let alone, and then it's Vince Williams in his first season as a starter with 7 sacks. That's just insane to me.
That is super insane, especially from the inside linebacker position. 7 sacks, that's a lot. Like, he's trying to break the record for a Steeler. The one that holds it right now, I believe, is Kendall Bell, who has 9.5 in a season at inside linebacker. So he's trying to break that.
He'll certainly have a chance. He only needs 2.5. He's had 2 sack games before, and he has 4 games to do it. Mm-hmm. So on the flip side, who disappointed you this week, Austin?
Before we get to that, I found out who got the last punt return touchdown after really looking for it because it was pissing me off. A kick return. Got the last kick return. And you know why I'm confusing it with punt return? Because it was Antonio Brown who did it on a kick return.
Oh.
2010. It was his rookie season. I didn't find the game yet.
I know what it was. I know what it was. It was week 2 of the 2010 regular season. It was actually a trick play, Austin. I think it was an 89-yard kick return. Mwelde Moore fielded the kick, and Antonio Brown was in the wedge and did a quick kind of reversed his field and took a reverse and went down the sideline.
Okay, so 7 years ago, and that game is over 7 years ago, actually, since it was week 2. That's when the last kickoff return touchdown happened for the Steelers. So a very long time. Not very, just...
No, very, very long, very long.
Okay, yeah, very long. Okay, sorry. Went off on a tangent just because I was excited because I found it. But, disappointed offensive line first. I know the Bengals were a tough unit in terms of sacks, but geez, they allowed Ben to get absolutely killed on some of the quarterback hits they gave up. They only gave up 1 sack, so I guess it's just the hits that they did give up were not good.
The optics were bad.
Exactly. Ben was under a lot of pressure, and they weren't opening holes for the running game collectively, so not a good day for them, in my personal opinion. Number 2, it was an easy choice. It had to be, one of us had to take him. It was Cody Sensabaugh. When you're so bad that you have to be benched for a rookie, you were playing awful. Not to mention a rookie that's never played a snap of a game before, not even preseason. He gave up the only 2 touchdowns for the Bengals and played poorly. He was my X factor too, and you could see why. His play really swung the game, and if he was left in, I don't think there was a way that the Steelers won that game. So who disappointed for you?
I think it's an easy target on offense. It's Juju Smith-Schuster, and it was a tough day for him. He only had 4 catches for 17 yards, and that penalty and suspension really does make him a loser this week. Whether or not he deserved it, but he also really struggled in the stat column as well. And on the other side, for me, it was Tyler Matakevich. And I know he's a backup. I know he's a great special teamer, but he didn't mesh well with someone like Vince Williams next to him. He looked a little overwhelmed and slow to get in place. I think Fort was a better fit there, but just not a good day. And on top of that, he got injured to boot. So Tyler Matakevich is my other loser. But, geez, Austin, in the grand scheme of things, the Steelers are 10-2. They have a chance to move in 5-0 in the division this week. Next week, they'll have a shot at the number 1 seed with the Patriots. The defense has struggled at times. The offense has struggled at times. There's some injuries mounting for the team. But God willing, Shazier's recovers quickly, they could technically not all be season ending. I don't think Shazier would play again personally this year, if assuming the best case scenario. But there were talks that injury could be very similar to what former Steelers quarterback Tommy Maddox suffered in 2002, which was only 2 weeks that he missed. So I guess if you want to look at a best case scenario, that's probably it. But I guess realistically, even with the injuries mounting, they could still all return soon. So things are looking very good. Remember, the Steelers have the last time the Steelers started this good, it was 2004, Ben Roethlisberger's rookie year, when they went to the AFC Championship game. So obviously Ryan Shazier is on the forefront of the mind, as he should be. But if you want to look for some other positive things, you can think about how the team has performed this season and how well they performed in his absence. I think it was a big win, huge emotional victory for the Steelers, and beyond that, it's just it really is like a brotherhood there.
It's crazy what happens in a locker room. If you guys listening have never played a sport, it's just something else. It's like your teammates are like your brothers. It's a crazy environment. It's unexplainable unless you've really been there. It's just how you develop with these guys and go on and you play next to each other. It's just something else. And that was playing for me in middle school. So I can only imagine what these guys must be. That must be even stronger, the feeling. So that's all I have to say.
What did you think about Mike Mitchell's comments today?
Oh my God, he went in. He killed everyone. There's a comment that's I can't talk about. I'll talk about it after the podcast. But I found it funny. But it's NSFW. It's not safe for work or the podcast.
Do you want to try to paraphrase it?
Someone made a comment on him saying something. It was just like, "You're the dirtiest."
Oh,
I saw that.
See, I thought you were talking about what Mitchell said.
Well, it was a response Mitchell had because someone's talking about it.
Oh.
No, yeah, this is super not good. Yeah, Mitchell just went in on a poor kid that wasn't ready on Twitter. But back to what he actually said. I agreed 100%. Like, the NFL has gotten softer and softer, and to be fair, it's had decent reasoning, but these players, as Mike Mitchell said, come here knowing that this is not like they're stupid or they're kept out of the loop and they're just forced to hit each other without knowing the consequences. They come here to play football. If Mike Mitchell didn't sign up to play flag football or go easy or ask people if he could hit them, like that's what it's getting close to. It's like all these hits and all these rules, like half of me, I won't lie, half of me doesn't understand all the rules in the NFL completely, and I've been watching for so long. I don't understand why Juju Smith-Schuster's block was illegal in the first place. I thought it was a decent block, and in my mind, at first I was excited until I saw the taunting. I wasn't even bothered by the block at first. I thought that was a really nice block, but apparently that's illegal. And I don't see why. I'm more for the rougher NFL. I'm more for the nasty blocks and making those big plays. I don't know. And just Mike Mitchell went in today. Do you have anything you want to say about Mike Mitchell talking?
No, it's just, he was being passionate about something that means a lot to him. Look, football has had some dark days recently with the concussion lawsuits, and I can definitely understand and appreciate wanting to protect players, but I think the execution of the punishments is not proper at all. That leads me to believe they don't actually really care about the players. They're just doing it for the public eye, which could very well be possible. But I guess some progress is better than no progress, so I'll take that. But at the same time, there's still a long way to go, too. So let's take a look around the rest of the NFL, Austin. It was I don't know if boring is the right word, but there were a lot of uninspiring games. The Sunday night game did not turn out to be nearly as exciting as I thought it was going to be.
No, it really wasn't. It was actually, it was just bad.
Yeah, the Eagles fall to 10-2 atop. So now the NFL has 4 10-2 teams, 2 from the NFC, and the Vikings and Eagles, and the Patriots and the Steelers. Through the transitive property, though, I think the Steelers are the best team of that bunch, right?
Out of who? I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that.
Aren't the Steelers technically the number 1 seed through the is it the transitive property?
Yeah, I think so. It's something like that. But I since they're above the Patriots and they beat the Vikings head to head, and now the Eagles are below the Vikings, the Steelers are now the number 1 in the NFL. Correct.
Right. Yeah, around the NFL, the Vikings won a close one. The Titans beat the Texans. That was close for a while. The Chiefs in full free fall mode. Now down. Oh, sorry about that. Now in full free fall mode after losing 38-31 to the Jets. The Dolphins shellacked the Broncos. The Jaguars crushed the Colts. The Packers won in overtime over the Broncos. The Ravens manhandled the Lions. The Bills suck. They got beat by the Patriots again. Jimmy Garoppolo in his first start got the W. The Chargers keep the Browns winless at 19-10. The Raiders got a win over the Giants. The Saints beat the Panthers 31-21. The Rams beat the Cardinals 32-16. Nothing too crazy in this week of the NFL, I don't think.
No, I just got one question from this. I saw some interesting reports. The Eagles have only beat one team that is over .500 this year.
Yep.
Do you think the Eagles are overrated at this point, or do you think that it's just been unfortunate that they've had an easy schedule and that they are a really good team?
Well, let me put it this way. Winning 10 games is not a fluke. That being said, though, that doesn't mean that they're great either, though. Looking at the rest of their schedule, they've got a pretty tough game this week. They're playing the LA Rams. I think that game, and I'm trying to figure out who else they play. They play the Raiders, and then week 17, who do they play? So they have one tough game right now, 2 easier games, if you will. And then the last game, Eagles, they're playing the Cowboys. So they could go 3-1 here, but it is interesting to see kind of how they fare against a team like that. Beyond that, Austin, I think I'm all set to move on to Week 14 of the NFL season, if you are.
I think so, too. I think I'm ready.
Kind of crazy how fast the season has gone by, but it's another Thursday night game. The Saints at the Falcons for a battle in the NFC South. I really wanted to take the Saints at first, but I think the Falcons are starting to get desperate because they know they're right in the thick of things with the Seahawks. I think they'll win outright. The Saints are 1.5 favorites, by the way. So with that being said, who do you got?
I have the Saints covering. I still think the Falcons aren't as good as the other teams in the NFC, so I'm taking the Saints to cover this.
Alrighty. Is there anything else you wanted to say before you wrap things up on this Wednesday night edition?
Just going back to the Steelers-Bengals game, I forgot to mention when we were talking about it, but that game was the first time that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell both had 100 receiving yards in the same game. I thought that was kind of interesting. Just a random stat to throw at you.
How many receiving yards or 100-yard receiving games has Bell ever had?
6.
Okay.
And none of them overlapped with Antonio Brown's, which I find surprising. I feel like Antonio Brown has usually at least 9 a year.
Yeah, very true, yeah. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap things up for today. The next time you hear us, we should be doing this in person. We can talk about how we want to do that, Austin, if we want to do it Friday night or something like that, or Saturday sometime. We'll figure it out. We will be in Baltimore. We'll be in Pittsburgh seeing the Steelers game against the Ravens on Sunday night. Quick turnaround for us as finals week is approaching, but we're looking forward to the game. We both just got rechargeable phone battery cases, so we could hopefully live stream from there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it, and hopefully, I believe, the Steelers can clinch the division with a win. So it'll be quite a celebration for that if the Steelers can pull it off, right?
Oh, one more thing we forgot to talk. Oh wait, we're gonna do it in the next episode. Never mind, guys. We're doing it next episode.
All right, already. Yeah, that's right. The whole clinching scenario. We can talk more about that, but the Steelers will have a chance to clinch their division. We'll get into that again. So Steelers win 10-2. Keep your eye on Ryan Shazier, obviously. Hopefully, we're wishing the best for him. Should be getting more updates soon. Check us out on Instagram at @stronger_steel_NFL, Twitter at @stronger_steel, Facebook Stronger Than Steel Podcast. Check out our episodes on SoundCloud and YouTube under the same name, Stronger Than Steel Podcast. And visit our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. And email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Don't remember if I said that. And last but not least, Julie Terry of Virginia. Don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. It's our last week of classes, so we're we've got our hands full right now. But don't worry, we'll get it to you at the very least by Monday. So don't worry, we'll get it to you soon. All right, Austin, thank you so much for joining me, and you everyone else, Steeler Nation, you have a great night, and keep Ryan Shazier in your thoughts, please.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel Podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.